Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. I'm one of your hosts, Moni. You can follow us at Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. And without further ado, I'd like to bring in my co-hosts, Yardley and Christy.
Hey, I'm doing great. It's always good to talk to you guys, and I look forward to some healthy, interesting conversation today.
Healthy?
You're not going to get that here.
No, you got the wrong show, buddy. I'm doing well. I had a weird experience about an hour ago where our mirror fell and crashed onto the floor and broke into 1,000 pieces an hour ago. So as a Scottish person, I'm still, trying to get over that because we're superstitious as hell. So I'm like, what does it all mean? But otherwise, I'm doing fine. How are you, Moni?
Well, first I need to tell you, enjoy your 7 years of bad luck, because that's creepy. I mean, I'm Mexican, so it's just like that's definitely not a good thing. The mirror breaking, not so much the being Mexican. Being Mexican's awesome, I just got to say. But I'm I'm doing good. I have been without my husband and kids now for the better part of the week. And apparently I'm a degenerate teenager when they're not around. So probably they need to come home so I can start acting like a grown-ass woman again.
Hey, well, let me ask you something, Christy. When something like that happens and your mirror falls off of the wall, is your first thing thinking that something crazy happened to make it fall, or maybe it was near a door and eventually it just came off the peg, or are you automatically thinking, I'm fucked?
Well, the weird part is that it's a giant, one of those door mirrors that's really tall, a full-length mirror, and only the bottom part shattered. And then the rest of it, formed this giant V knife, shank, Ooh. And then sunk. So I opened the door. I heard the sound, and I opened the door, and you hear this, it was screeching open because the glass, the shank part of it, was scraping on the floor, and it was still in its little holders. It was just really weird, and nobody had opened it. It hadn't. I really don't know what that means. I was a little freaked out, to say the least. I'm like, who's in my bathroom? And the kids are like, no, it was just really bizarre. So I'm a little perplexed. And I first wasn't worried about it. I was more like, I'm just going to clean this up. And then I started thinking about it and trying to understand how that would happen, and still haven't figured out an answer. So yeah, of course, me being who I am, resort to, well, great, those spirits that were here around here 7 years ago are back. So now I got, like Moni said, 7 years of bad luck.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, exactly, because I tend to have bad luck often, so I don't know.
Regardless,
what did you do? Just bad karma in general.
Yeah, it just seems to happen. Aww. Well, I must say this though, I have a lot more positive things that happen than bad, but I have my fair share.
Well, that's a great outlook, Yardley. I'll remember that the next 7 years. So I want to start it off with some weird news. I love looking online and seeing all the crazy shit that's going on the planet, because there is a lot of crazy shit going on this planet right now. And not everything really appeals to me, but some of it, either I crack up or it's truly bizarre and I just haven't quite figured out the answer. So I read this article, I think it was the New York Post, that says that people are now more likely to die from selfies than shark attacks. And I find that pretty pathetic, actually.
Well, aren't there some cities where they don't allow people to walk and text or things like that because people fall into manholes because they're not paying attention? I mean, I figure selfies would be right up there because you're just screwing around on your phone and not looking at your surroundings.
Well, I mean, yeah. And I think the biggest thing is these people that are trying to get the ultimate selfie. they're standing up on a scale, a scaffolding, with New York City behind them. And, I need to get a little bit further to get that perfect shot. And then they fall to their death. Or this guy, they were talking about this Japanese tourist that fell down the steps of the Taj Mahal trying to get a selfie. I mean, it's clearly Darwin, taking effect. But I just think it's hysterical that now, instead of shark cages, we should have like selfie cages.
Or get the selfie stick.
When I go to Cancun, instead of getting a shark cage, they're going to be like, hey, we'll offer you a selfie cage and you won't kill yourself with selfies. And I'll be like, yay. So.
Yeah, I plead the fifth on that one because I will do stupid shit for selfies. And just because I haven't had the opportunity to be in some of these places where it's really dangerous doesn't mean that I wouldn't try it if I had the chance. So yeah, I'm just not gonna go into that one.
Have either of you ever tried to take a selfie like on a roller coaster or anything like that in danger of losing your phone?
No.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I have. I can't do that. I can't even hold my phone and just be normal, let alone do something trying to get, like, I break my screen like every 6 months. So I've pretty much given up. We were in Hawaii for the summer and everybody, all the kids had their phones out and I'm like putting mine in a little baggie and throwing it in a bag because I would be the one that's going to either drop it in the ocean or crack it because that's me. I drop it constantly or smash it or sit on it or sleep on it. So yeah, I'm not the one to do that. And I would be the one that with going for a selfie would die. That would be me.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think
at least I'm aware of
the
it.
Perfect shot. That's my mentality here. The perfect photo, it's worth it. Whatever you got to do.
That can be true. I actually managed to do it on a roller coaster at Oktoberfest last year.
Nice.
We were in Munich, and I was drunk, and actually my
perfect description.
Yeah, and crispy, and you can actually see him. Actually, if you go on Instagram at militant_marker, the video's there. My friend actually tells me, "Please don't drop your camera," but I was all in at that point.
Oh my gosh, I gotta go watch that one. I can't wait to see it. So, all right, my next version of news is, I wouldn't call this news per se, but I've been following this account on Twitter of this dude. He's just a normal guy, Adam Ellis, and I've been following this for almost 3 weeks now. And it's kind of, he hasn't done much on it lately. He did check in to say, hey, I'm still alive, but he starts this whole story off with that he thinks his apartment building is haunted by a child and that the child's going to kill him, which sounds crazy. But then he starts to talk and it started with sleep paralysis and weird dreams where the little boy was rocking in a rocking chair in his bedroom.
Nope.
And the little boy has a misshapen head. And in his dream, a woman comes to him and says, you can ask him 2 questions and he'll answer them. And the little boy's name is Dear David. And if you ask him 3, though, he'll kill you. And he's still dreaming. And so we ask the little boy, what happened to your head? And the little boy says, a shelf fell on my head.
Ouch.
And he asks him, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the other question. But so he asks him 3 questions. And then he realizes in his dream, oh shit, I've asked this guy 3 questions. Now what? And so the little boy starts coming towards him in the dream and he wakes up screaming. And he mentions and says several times that he does suffer from sleep paralysis. And so, so he didn't really know what to think of it. Well, then after that dream, things started getting weird in his reality, in his apartment, like his cats at midnight. And I'm sorry, I missed the point where they said he would come to you at midnight. And so sure enough, now this guy is in his apartment and he has 2 cats and the cats keep at, close to midnight meowing at the door. And he was scared and he takes a picture out his peephole and you can see a shadow like on his staircase. Ugh. And he's like, I don't know what to think about this. And, he's been, he's going through it, freaking out. He keeps seeing his cats trying to get out in the hallway every night at midnight, and it's starting to scare him.
Yeah.
And he has these like videos, and he's showing clocks, like sure enough, it's midnight and the cats are at the door meowing, and he's like, they don't do this until it's midnight. And then he gets a picture of the shadow, and everybody on Twitter is just losing their shit. They're eating this up. They're just, I see shadows, I see this and that, and then he starts having dreams again. And there's a couple of videos on there that are interesting. And either this guy is some sort of marketing genius, and there's going to be some Dear David movie coming up soon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yep.
As a person that's in marketing who does organic campaigns like this for customers, I've had a couple of film industry people hire me to do things like this on an organic level for an anticipating movie in the future. So, of course, my first thought is this. But it doesn't seem like he's anything, from what I can tell from looking him up, he doesn't seem like this is anything that he's doing as a profession. If so, then the dude has earned every penny. But, it just hits home for me because when I had said last show that I grew up in a haunted house, it was haunted by a little boy, and everything that happened to us was very much something that would happen if a little boy was going to haunt you. I mean, just silly little things, and then he also, apparently his grandfather was with him until he was ready to cross over. And so I kind of the story just drew me in because I had, my room was one of the most active rooms in our house, and we would be in the living room, which was just a bathroom away, because my bathroom was like the main bathroom. So it was like you'd be in the living room and you'd go in through the bathroom straight into my bedroom, and we'd be sitting on the couch and we'd hear this rustling sound. And I had two closets. This was my dad's house, and so I split my time between my dad and my mom when I was growing up. And it was an old house, and one of the closets was mine, and the other closet was like wrapping paper and stuff. And you would hear this rustling, and we would walk in my room, and there would be this gift bag of bows that was always stored in the top of the closet spilled onto the bed, and all the bows would be just everywhere. And we'd scoop the bows back up, and we'd put it back at the top of the closet, and not 30 minutes later, you would hear that rustling again, and there they were. They were all back out on the bed again. And doorknobs would twist, banging sounds. And I never felt like he was trying to hurt anybody. It was just such a strange experience growing up, knowing that, and when your parents tell you this house is haunted by a little boy and his grandpa, and you're kind of like, oh, okay. But it was just an experience growing up that when I started reading what he was saying, it was really caught my attention, because that's what happened to me. And I always wonder, we had the last conversation about how do you not know you're dead? And it seems like this little boy knows he's dead, and he's just fucking with this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but I just found that really interesting.
Well, it was along the lines of the story about Adam Ellis, the guy who was saying that he had the little kid that was looking at him in the chair. And one of the things in the story was talking about he was experiencing sleep paralysis. Well, I know in 1983, I had an experience with sleep paralysis. I was in my bed. I had a window beside it. It was actually on my right-hand side, and it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. And I couldn't move, but I could look from side to side. And out the corner of my eye, it seemed like some tall guys were just walking by my window with like top hats on. That, as a kid, that's what I thought that I had saw. But it was a pretty terrifying experience. And then once, I was able to move and the next morning came, I tried to convince myself that the guys who I thought were walking by the window were the trees outside my window. And, I was just trying to convince myself that I wasn't really freaking out. But the sleep paralysis phenomenon is real. And it's definitely something that can push you mentally a little bit further than you would like, because it just really seems like something has gotten a hold of you and you just can't move. And it's the most terrifying thing ever. So I think I can definitely identify with the guy on that level. But the thing that I was wondering about is when you look at his tweets, his original tweet, which he lets everybody know is a thread, has like 50,000 retweets, but everything after that averages around 600. So I'm wondering what is the big drop off? And I'm wondering, could this be something where this could be made up and this guy is using bots to get the story out? What do you think about that? Like, how does that work on Twitter? Well,
But
it's just a
Yarly,
big
as
drop
someone
off.
who's experienced that, do you think that all of this could be explained by reoccurring cases of sleep paralysis?
That's a great concept, because as a
Well,
person who does marketing,
you know what?
who understands
In his particular
that,
situation, he was
that's something
actually
you can
saying
do.
that he saw
It's easy and it's
a
cheap.
young boy
So
sitting
that's a
in the green
possibility.
chair.
Mhm.
In my situation, I couldn't really make out
further.
what I felt was someone sitting on my chest. I couldn't really make that out. I think his case is a little bit more extreme than mine, because just the fact that you can't move and you're saying that you're seeing someone in the same room, I think that that's a little bit more concerning than my situation. I just couldn't move. So I think for me mentally, it was just the fact that I couldn't move, but it just felt like something was taking my breath away from the weight on my chest. So I don't know. I mean, his situation it's definitely interesting, but I'm just kind of really, my antennas are up about how the social media presence of this story, why there was such a big drop off after the original tweet. Good point.
The other possibility is when you retweet the first one, if it catches people's attention, then they go back and read it and they don't need to retweet the rest. So they, I'm retweeting the beginning and then it goes viral and then people go back and they read the rest. And then what's the point of retweeting the rest? Because they've already caught on to the story. But I don't know. I mean, I'll have to go back and look at it. That's something I hadn't really analyzed. I was more like going, oh, I was haunted by a little boy. Maybe not with a misshapen head. I mean, he even like drew a picture of the head, like a picture of what the boy looks like. And the weirdest part is there's it's called something, and I can't think of the name of it, where you see what you want to see in a photo. I can't think of the name of it, but he tweets a picture of himself and he's like, hey, I'm out of here for the weekend. And he's like, peace. And then in the back, you see a door with glass. And in one of the glass door panels, it looks like this kid's face, like to a T of what he drew. And some people didn't see it. Like I saw it. And then other people were like commented, do you see this? And then other people were like, yeah. And they would like circle something else, but that's not what they were talking about or what I saw too. And that's the whole point of this, what's real, what's not, what do people see, what do they want to see, I just found it really interesting because it's the first thing that drew my eye when he took the picture was it looked just like the picture he drew with the little boy.
One way or the other, yeah. It's going to make an awesome
that a
movie.
little disconcerting. So I
So,
don't
speaking
know.
of
It's
haunted houses,
definitely
haunted rooms,
I'm really
I had the
interested in what he
opportunity
has to
this
say
week to
later. And like
go
I
take
said,
a
if
tour
there
of
seems
the
to be
Whaley
some
House.
Dear David movie
It's
coming
located
out, I
in
wouldn't
Old
be
Town San
surprised.
Diego. It's one of the
And
most
I
haunted
wouldn't
houses,
even be
supposedly,
surprised
at
if
least in the
somebody bought
nation.
the rights to his story
And
and did this
I've
because
been there
it's
once
pretty good
before, had
concept
nothing happen to
that I
me. It
haven't
was
seen
during the
out there
day.
in the horror genre.
And this time had the privilege of it being a tour of just my friend and I and our
Exactly.
guide. And there's a whole lot of history there. So whether you believe in ghosts or any of that, a ton of people have died in or around the house. The most famous being Yankee Jim, who actually was convicted of attempted grand larceny. If I'm correct, I think he was trying to steal some horses, and he actually was hanged on the gallows. And he was hanged in the back of a wagon in a time when people were generally about 5'8" or so, and he was about 6'3". And due to that, they had misjudged how much rope and everything would be needed. And so he was able to actually keep his feet on the back of the wagon, which was usually how they would take the wagon out from underneath, and people would swing and their necks would snap and they would die. So it took Yankee Jim 45 minutes to actually strangle to death in this method. And Thomas Whaley actually witnessed this and decided that it was an opportunity to purchase this property at a lower rate. Ever the businessman. So supposedly Yankee Jim actually cursed the house. And after Thomas Whaley bought it, they constructed the house and used the archway that had been used to hang the rope over in the living room portion of the inside of the house. So where the family would hang out in the evenings had the original archway where Yankee Jim had passed on at. So, to the surprise of no one, the family went on to have a ton of tragedies, and that could have just been bad luck. Maybe they broke too many mirrors, who knows? But everyone drew their last breath basically within 20 feet of this archway, including starting with the couple's 7-month-old or 17-month-old son, who died of scarlet fever and sort of cast a really sad feeling over the whole house and the whole family. Their daughter, actually, Violet Whaley, she committed suicide in the house after her husband ran out on her right after their wedding. She she went into a deep depression for a couple of years and had tried to kill herself earlier and had been under suicide watch. And once suicide watch was over, they sort of started letting her do her own thing again. Ended up shooting herself in the heart and not dying immediately. So her father actually had carried her down onto a couch, ironically in the same room as this archway, and had run off to try to find a doctor, came back. His daughter was
Oh my
still
gosh.
struggling to breathe and everything else with a big hole in her chest. And she died on that couch under the archway in her father's arms. The rest of the family died inside that house. So there was just there was fires, there was takeovers, because for a while the house served as a business center for the town, and people came in and tried to take out the business portions, took all the files forcibly when Thomas wasn't home. So there was just a ton of tragedy that all occurred there, and it's said to have happened due to the curse of Yankee Jim. And then Jim himself was actually buried in the El Campo Santo Cemetery, which is about 2 blocks away from the Whaley house. And so we went and checked that out as well. All that said, didn't really have anything happen in the Whaley house to us. And this was, again, in the evening time. I didn't feel like the host really did a great job showing us around. He was a great storyteller, really nice man, but they were very excited to be like, your cell phones are going to die due to all the spirit activity in here, and take tons of pictures because you're going to see lots of stuff and you're going to have these kind of feelings. And, so right off the bat, it was like, they're telling you what you're going to feel. And I actually told him, can you not tell us in advance what we're supposed to feel so we can see we can tell you what we feel. And he just said, nope, can't do that. So I don't know if that's something mandated by like their employment there or what, but he wasn't going to give us a minute to sort of like feel what we felt, which was unfortunate. Yes, he just kept telling stories, and they were great stories. But at one point, I did legitimately smell cigar smoke, and I guess that's really common. That Thomas Whaley, that can happen a lot of the time. But other than that, other than just feeling legitimately sad about some of the horrifying stories that we were told, didn't really feel anything independent of what we were being told to think and feel. So that was a little bit of a disappointment.
Everything that happens.
And I've gone through the photos. I haven't gone through them super carefully, but have not seen anything interesting, not even the slightest orb, which I don't know if I would have credited anyway. But the El Campo Cemetery was really interesting. And Yankee Jim is actually buried there, which was kind of gross because I guess it was supposed to only be for Catholics. He told them he was not a Catholic. And they were like, guess what? We're baptizing you in the gallows here, and you're going to be a Catholic. And they threw him into this cemetery that was mostly supposed to be for prominent pioneer families. And the video is up on our Facebook page, our Creepin' It Real Facebook page. But my friend and I were just goofing around, being super respectful in the cemetery, as we will do. Because we were just getting kind of silly because we were entertaining ourselves, having not heard or felt or seen anything interesting besides the history. And as we were talking, you can hear in the video, there's nobody around us. I mean, it's a busy downtown area, but there's nobody in the cemetery or in the parking lot behind us. And you just hear like a snap, and then you kind of hear like a footstep. And I kind of stopped and said, I just heard something. And she said, I did too. So that was the only like remotely semi-creepy, interesting thing that may or may not have taken place outside of the history of the place while we were on our tour. Oh, yeah. I think I know who you're talking about, but Zach the Dude Bro Ghost Guy. That's what we're going with.
I saw a couple of videos when you said that you were going to go there oh my gosh, I want to say Zach Brannigan because I watch Futurama, and I know that's not the right name, but Zach, the guy that does this ghost show, what I can't remember. The guy, he's like a total dude bro. And I can't think of his name. Yeah, that's pretty much his name. And he was there, and he had some experiences, and a lot of lights and orbs and things like that happen. So... And then I was also looking
Moni,
on their Twitter.
What do you think about this? And this is actually a question that I could pose to both of you. I mean, on the concept of family,
more lights.
I mean, how many families or people would be comfortable with actually keeping that being that he was hanged from and building over it? I think I would feel some kind of way about that. What about y'all?
It's probably really hard to check out, but have an experience.
I'm kind of curious if this was a testament to it being a different time. But I also feel like if I were to witness someone being hanged and stood there for 45 minutes watching them curse the land, that I wouldn't be like, yeah, that's the property that I aspire to buy in a couple years from now. But that's just me. And most certainly I wouldn't be like, when constructing this property, let's take care to keep the archway on which this man died on. Like, did you run out of money to build the property and you couldn't get another damn archway? Like, why is that like a talking point? Like when people come to visit your house, I got to show you this cool archway. Like, ew.
You nailed it. Back then, people were murdered all the time. I mean, you walk into a bar and you disagree with somebody and you're shot. I mean, it was you're right. It was a different time. Death was viewed a little bit differently than it is now. I mean, they used to take pictures of the dead. If you died, they'd prop you up in a chair and sit you there for a couple of days. People would come visit you and they would photograph you. It was not viewed as respectful as we have it today. And I think it was probably like a boasting thing. I've got this, beam that he was hanged from, and it took him 45 minutes, and everybody would ooh and awed over that. So I'm not shocked at all that this was late 1800s. So
yeah,
I could see that easily being something that would be a talking point.
But I feel like the point where your toddler son and then your adult daughter both died tragically in the house, like maybe then it's peace out time. I don't know.
Well, also it was a time where they had, you remember those death masks that they would make of people's faces, and there was definitely. Well, I don't know. I guess we could probably make the case that there was a lot more superstition back then, because I really do think that superstition is a little bit
definitely
more quiet is kept these days. I think so. I think there's both kind of two sides to that coin. I think people were definitely superstitious enough, probably somewhere, where someone would say, we're not gonna use that beam and just cover it up.
It could have been that he felt like they were honoring him, like recognizing and giving him his voice because of the way that he died. I mean, people had mourning jewelry made out of dead people's hair. It was people who died were a spectacle back then. I mean, they had mummies sitting there that were being dug up in Egypt and laid across, shipped over to America and laid across storefronts, and you could buy them for firewood. I mean, it was just, people just didn't, they had respect, but then they didn't. It was a weird way of honoring the dead that they had at the time. So I don't know. I mean, I could see it being that he's thinking, I'm keeping this beam as out of respect, out of honoring what he went through, and it backfiring horribly. You should have gotten that place blessed, torn it all down, burned it to the ground, done a fire dance or whatever you needed to do to get the bad juju out of there. But they just didn't look at it that way. So I don't know. I have kind of a fear of dealing with aspects of the angry dead. So I don't know. I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that stuff.
So what are your guys' greatest fears then? That's kind of our loose theme for this week. What are you guys afraid of?
You know what? For me, probably being pinned underwater and drowning that way, long country back roads with no street lights, and having to actually use CPR training. I've got all these certificates for all these trainings, and I hope I never have to use it. I'm scared to death that I'll be the guy. I'll have to be the guy to try to save someone else. So that's something I'm scared of.
You blow it, huh? Wow.
Those are super duper specific. What about you, Christy?
Well, you already know from the last show, I'm afraid of clowns and spiders. I'm also afraid of flying, but it's never kept me from going anywhere. I'm just a basket case while I'm flying. And then, strangely specific, I have a huge fear of going into a convenience store at night and having the fear it's going to be robbed. So I know that sounds crazy, but I have always had this fear. And I remember when my daughter, my oldest, was a baby, she was in her car seat, and my husband went into the convenience store to get something, and it was dark, and it was a really, it's kind of a questionable area. And I just remember sitting there and just praying, oh God, like I've always had that fear that I'm going to walk into a convenience store at nighttime and it's going to get robbed. Maybe that's how I died in another life. I don't know. What about you, Moni?
Well, I'm probably super anxious. This probably says a lot more about me just that way. Cause I'm sort of anxious about a lot of things. Like I totally could see, like I never would have said, long country back roads with no streetlights or being pinned underwater. But now that you say that, that is horrifying. And Christy saying convenience stores at night, I'm like, convenience stores during the daytime. You could be robbed at any time. Like, I'm seriously just like, there's going to be an earthquake. There's going to be a fire. Where's the zombie invasion? Like, it's whatever. It's all going to happen all at the same time. Before I go into my specific fears, because I have a point to make with that, though, let's talk about some of the fears that other people have, the top 10. We have arachnophobia, which is my main one also.
Yes.
And Christy, you mentioned that. I feel like, that, not to be sexist or generalizing, but I feel like a lot of women, I mean, I've seen dudes that don't like spiders, but I feel like women are specifically like, no spiders for us.
That's because we force them to deal with it.
Well,
they're like, what else are they going to do? All right, I got to confront this.
I mean, for me, spiders are more or less, they're annoying, but I don't know if I'm really scared of them.
Yeah, if I was even dating a man or had to do it all over again, if he couldn't take care of a spider for me, that would be a deal breaker. So that's, yeah.
Well, I was single for a spell and had to like deal with the spiders, and I did. But then I scrubbed myself in the shower for like an hour and freaked out and, did my whole crazy dance. And I've actually had pet snakes. It's just spiders that for some reason, spiders and cockroaches, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like, but yes, for some reason, you're right. It's probably majority women than men. So.
Oh, yeah. Funny you mentioned snakes, because ophidiophobia is fear of snakes. And I also am not afraid of snakes. For all the things that make me anxious, snakes are not one of them. Probably because I just grew up with so many around the house that unless they rattled, I was like, man, it's probably a snake that's taking care of some critters for us.
Snakes are cool. I'm all about it. And you know what? Like, I was sitting there this morning drinking coffee on our back porch, and we have spiders like all over. And I'm like, you guys are doing your jobs. I mean, there are all these dead bugs. And I'm like, yeah. But the minute you step into my house, it is war. Like, I'm sorry, you got to die now. Like, you just crossed the barrier. You can hang out outside all day over my house. That's awesome. And please kill all the bugs. You're great. But don't come into my house.
Yeah. Like, I like to look at webs. It's gorgeous from the outside.
Oh, it's amazing. And they're kind of beautifully terrifying. Like, I look at them crawling and I'm like, oh. And then at the same time, I feel like I'm going to puke and I get chills. I'm just like,
can't even think about it.
You know?
Nope.
What else? What are the other ones?
Acrophobia, the fear of heights. Agoraphobia.
My daughter has that. Fear of close spaces. Yes. Right?
Yeah. So there's claustrophobia of the small spaces, and then there's the agoraphobia, the fear of the open or crowded spaces.
I'm sorry. My grandmother had that.
Gotcha.
My grandmother had that. My daughter has claustrophobia. I switched them up.
I think a lot of people don't know they have claustrophobia until they end up in a small space, and it's a bad time to find out that you're afraid of that. I've been in a couple of those escape room things recently, and they're super fun to do. But people end up going into closets to get a key to get out of these escape rooms, and everybody's like, "No, I don't want to go in the closet. Well, I don't want to go in the closet. Well, I'll go in the closet." And then the girl that went in the closet, she was a stranger to me, and she goes in there and she's just like, "I don't want to be in this closet anymore." The door's open. Yeah, it totally freaked her out. That stuff actually doesn't bother me. Probably because I'm need to go into a small hole and hide from all the other scary things in the world. But
yeah, I'm the same way.
There's cynophobia, the fear of dogs. That's number 5 on the list of 10.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I don't get it either, but I think that some people have legit experienced being attacked by or maybe threatened to be attacked by dogs, and that would really change your perspective, I think.
Yeah, my niece
I had that happen.
Has that.
Does she? Did it happen to her personally, or she just developed this fear out of? Because I think sometimes
when
parents,
she was young.
Yeah, sometimes parents are like, when their kids are young and don't go near my kid, and then the kid gets scared because their parents had kind of, or they legitimately had something happen to them.
Yes, she had something happen to her. She was actually, I think she was 3 or 4, and a dog had bit her, and then it was over after that. So, it stuck with her. But she's not that way now. She's kind of, moved beyond it. But it was definitely something that affected her for a lot of years. I mean, decades.
Wow.
That's sad. That's missing out on a lot of cute puppies.
I know. I got bit many times when I was a kid because I did not know a stranger dog, or cat, or I was just the animal lady when I was a kid, and I got bit. I actually saved a dog from getting hit by a car, and it repaid me by biting me on my face.
Oh,
It's like,
geez.
thanks a lot, asshole.
You must have
But
been scared, I guess. But yeah.
it was,
Ugh.
yeah, it was one of those little, in which, okay, so I don't like little dogs, and that's probably why, because every time I've ever been bit was by a little dog.
Yeah,
The big dogs are great. It's the little ones that are assholes, man.
it's true.
Astrophobia is the fear of thunder and lightning.
My last dog had that.
I think a lot of dogs, I think just maybe the sound being so intense for them. But I don't know
my
a lot of
puppy
humans.
now could give a shit. She's like, my last dog that I had, Lola, was terrified of storms. I mean, she would either, if she was outside, she would jump the fence and take off, and you would have to find her. Like, people would usually end up picking her up and calling you, or she would headbutt herself into our shower. And like, because it was a glass door, and you could hear, if it was like in the middle of the night and the storm was coming, you could hear this boom, and she would know before the storm even came. And boom, boom, and she would butt into the shower and close, and you could hear the door close. And I'd walk in there, and she'd be kneeling in the shower. So she had some kind of crazy ass great weather radar, I'm telling you. But yeah.
Our new puppy is legit too stupid to be afraid of anything. So that's, I guess,
Ivy,
good.
The first time we had a really big storm, I thought, oh gosh, let's get the thunder jacket, because we have one of those little thunder coats for dogs. And she was passed out, like her legs in the air, on her back, slobbering and snoring. I'm like, so clearly storms don't bother her.
Well, there you go. Claustrophobia, which we mentioned. And either of you claustrophobic?
Negative.
No.
I enjoy closed-in spaces. Like I said, my daughter, we learned the hard way, because her and her brother built like this tunnel system in our living room, and she got kind of caught inside of it and absolutely lost her shit. I felt so bad, because she's just not dramatic in any way, very cool, laid back, and to see her that way was really shocking. And it's been proven a few times before too, just being in a really crowded car, she starts to get nauseous. She doesn't like being in closed-in spaces at all.
Oh. There's mysophobia, the fear of germs, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. And honestly, I work with the public, and we hand each other like library cards and all kinds of things back and forth. And the skin on my hands might fall off from the number of times that I put hand sanitizer on. So I definitely feel that. And if I start to think about things like, if I don't put the hand sanitizer on, then I touch something else, then it's transferred onto there, and then it'll transfer onto here. And if I start to think about that, I kind of make myself crazy. So I may have that a little borderline going on. I think they call that OCD in some places.
My husband has I would say a little bit of that. He, like, when he opens the door for me, he opens it with his closed fist. Like, he won't, like, he's like, I'm a gentleman. And then he's over there, like, fisting, like, trying to open it with his fist because he doesn't want to touch it with his fingers. And then when we're walking downstairs, I'm, like, got my hand on the rail, and he's, like, sitting over there with his hands clenched, like, freaks out. And then he's like, would you like a wet one? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, cold sweats.
Yep, I'm with him.
What about you, Yardley?
Well, let me ask you, when you're in a bathroom and you're leaving it, do you use a paper towel to open up the door?
Yes. Oh, bathrooms
Every
are
time.
disgusting.
That's totally my style. I've seen dudes go into the stall and they're taking a dump, and I've seen cats just walk straight out the door.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, wow, man.
Here's the funny thing about, here's my imaginative thing about women and men bathrooms. So I could be just speaking for myself, but women don't really poop in public restrooms. I mean, I've not witnessed a lot of that. I mean, there's some of them that you're like, wow, you just don't care, and good on you. But it's very rare that you see a girl go into a restroom and just go to town out in there. We're usually trying to keep it on the down low about our potty habits.
Girl,
and
they're just hiding it from you. They're lining it with extra paper so you don't hear it.
But that's
they're
the
waiting
thing.
until your
That's
ass is out of the
exactly what I
door.
mean.
because I've been there. And well, I work in an office too. So of course, when we got to go here, we got to go here. And some of these chicks do some mean stuff, but they're my friends, so they know. But still, living in California, like, yeah, out in public, it's like, no, women totally do it. And I think they just, if you've seen their face, then like before they go into the stall, then they're going to pretend, or they're going to wait till you're gone, like wait you out. But if you haven't seen their face, then it's all bets are off.
It's like the standoff, you know, like there's two people that go and sit down. But that's what I mean. Like dudes, they just go in there and do their business. They don't care. Nobody cares. There's nothing thinks anybody of anything. But girls, it's a totally different situation. We got to wait you out or try to buffer it, or just completely shut down your bodily activity altogether, because you're not going to do that in the public situation. So I just think it's funny. Is there a fear of pooping in public? Because that... I
was going to say, is that a fear that should be on this list?
I definitely experience the fear of pooping in public. My body experiences it, not me. I would sometimes love to just go to the bathroom, but my body does not allow that. And like when we travel out of state, or one time we went to Europe, and oh my gosh, we were there for weeks, and I had to force myself. It was like my body just shut down. It's like the second we leave our house, my body's like, well, so much for going to the bathroom. So we are
That's
so
weird.
off topic. Well,
sorry. It's like the opposite though. My husband is the one. You were saying that men usually don't care, but my poor husband, he's going to kill me. But yeah, he'll hold it till he's dead, because he's
That's
just
how mine is too.
Well, because he says that with men, it's like you go into the stall, so you know what they're going to do. Just like Yardley just said, like you go in there and he's going to take a dump, right? Like that's what a guy's going to do when he goes into the stall. So my poor husband will just be like holding it all day long, just like.
That's why we don't have attitudes all the time.
That's what. So my husband used to work downtown for like 12 years. He worked downtown. And then they moved up like not 10 minutes from our house. So, you know, in perspective, he used to have to drive almost an hour to get to work. And now he has to drive maybe 15 minutes if it's, you know, there's traffic. And the best part about it is that he can zoom home and go to the bathroom and zoom back. Otherwise, he was hitting the Hilton across the street because they had private bathrooms, you know, there, because he didn't want to go, because he's an executive and he's like, I don't want to go to the bathroom with all these other people. So but I was that way. I'm not an executive, but I'm the same way. I don't want to, I ain't going potty with all the other peoples. I need some privacy. So when I'm traveling, I'm driving and looking for like restaurants that have one toilet so I can walk in and have some privacy. So, all right, we'll have to investigate and see if that's an actual fear or not, because I think it might be.
So the last two of the top 10, though, so it probably is, but it's not in the top 10. So aerophobia, the fear of flying, which we talked about, aerophobia, and then trypophobia, which is the fear of holes. Now, I had the unfortunate situation of, I Googled that.
What kind of holes? I don't want to know.
That was my first thought. I was like, who the hell could be afraid of holes, and what are they missing out on in life to be afraid of holes? But then when you Google it, you get measles, chickenpox, leprosy. You get plants that have these nasty little bumps inside of them with stuff that could or could not be creepy things coming out.
Like zits? Like holes kinds of zits? Or like holes in the ground?
Pores, any kind of hole, but when you Google search it, you get rashes that look like maybe there's stuff living in the whole little bumps that go into the skin that it causes. You get enlarged pores that have like gunk in them. You get these plants that have little tiny seed pods that has God knows what coming out of there. Yeah, that started causing me a little bit of anxiety, and apparently I'm not the only one. So that
sounds like Dr. Pimple Popper, like those people's worst nightmare, because I won't watch those, because I don't want to know what's coming out of somebody's body. I don't. And the fact that this has become like a sensation just explains our society, really, in a nutshell. Like, People are going to look back in 100 years and when the aliens come to take us over, and they're going to be like, you guys recorded people popping pimples. Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
We will be better off when the aliens come, for starters.
We'll make great pets. That's
yes. Pets who are afraid of holes. So
we can entertain them by popping each other's pimples. Yes. Look at this. Look at this thing. We've been waiting on
each other like monkeys. Like, we look so down on monkeys now, but we'll be the monkeys. So they think that the reason why this fear exists is because a lot of these bumps can resemble symptoms of contagious diseases, or because they can appear on poisonous things. Dangerous things like blue-ringed octopus, snakes, poisonous plants all have these tiny little holes that have stuff in them. And I know, having just watched that god-awful alien movie, the newest one, what is it, Covenant? God, just skip that one. Just skip that one altogether.
I watched it, but I don't know. Maybe I blocked it out because I didn't think it was that great.
Oh, it's so bad. But there is the part where he leans over, at the pushing of David, saying, "Oh, it's totally safe," which don't listen to that. And he leans over and the hole, and that face hugger pops out and kills him, of course. Yeah. So this is why people are afraid of holes, okay? And I guess
thanks, aliens.
Thanks for everything, aliens. The new American Horror Story season that's coming out is going to be Cult. And I guess people are afraid of the marketing campaign, actively avoiding photos from their marketing campaign, because they're showing things like this one woman with her tongue out that has a bunch of like spiky hole kind of things in her tongue, or this person with their top of their head off and it's got a brain that has a beehive inside with little holes and all the little bees are coming out. So this is causing people this trypophobia to become something that people are talking about right now because of all these creepy photos from this TV show that's coming out with holes all over the place.
Here I was thinking this was going to go in a whole other direction, but I was wrong.
That's what I thought at first too. Trust me, right there with you.
Damn. Yardley, are you afraid of holes?
No and yes. I would have to say this. The pictures that Moni was talking about, I think people are naturally inclined, if there's a hole, that something's going to come out of it. So that kind of ups the creep factor of it. But I think for the most part, if I grab something with a bunch of holes, I'm keeping it away from my face sometimes.
So see, I was thinking if there's a hole, something's going in it. So I'm a way off on the whole fear thing. So clearly that is not a fear of mine. I'm like, a hole, something going in it, and I'm being gross. So sorry. Excuse
me. What led me to Google. No, I'm right there with you, because that's what led me to Google it. I was just like, that's ridiculous. People afraid of holes. How would we be able to procreate if everyone was afraid of holes?
Exactly. What?
Then I Googled it and saw all these rashes and things with spiders inside of them, and I was like, "Oh, that's scary."
Wrong
so that's
holes.
that is legit.
Funny story. One of the first times I ever met my husband, like back 16, 17 years ago, I was at a bar and my ex-boyfriend was there with his new girlfriend. And I was with a group of girls, and he was there because he played volleyball with one of the girls. And I grabbed him and I was like, pretend like you like me and let's just, have a good time. Because I was trying to make this dude like think that I wasn't interested in him either. And I was like, so while we're doing this, hey, what do you like? He's like, hey, I like girls that have holes that like to use them. And I'm like, what? I mean, he was joking. But that just gives you, like, his sense of humor is, like, totally shitty and right up my alley. Because I was like, what? You're gross. And then I was thinking, and I just started laughing because, yes, that's exactly the kind of sense of humor I would totally dig. And the rest was history. So, I'm sorry.
That's a lovely, meet cute story, very much
Isn't it? Isn't it? Some holes are good holes, people. Don't be so scared of holes.
Is that going
True
to be
that.
the takeaway from this week? Is use your good holes for good? I don't know.
I
Stay
think
away from the
so.
bad holes and use the good ones for fun things. Anyways, moving on. Yes, before we delve into that too much.
Yes.
So I didn't mention what my biggest fears were besides being afraid of a little bit anxious about everything. I learned a new fear that I didn't know that I had this week, and that was I actually did a virtual reality simulation at work because libraries are cool places. Little shameless plug. We have VR technology at our library right now. And so I decided to go through it's literally called Face Your Fears. And one of them is a thing where you're up on a scaffold overlooking an entire city, and so you've got a huge height thing going on. And it was really, really super cool because you would look down and you were way up high and you saw the whole city and it was really gorgeous. And so I would look down and I would say, "This is really cool. I'm going to throw up. It's not real." And like close my eyes and like, "But this is really neat, but I don't want to see anymore." Like, so I'm not necessarily afraid of heights, but that was disconcerting because they had robots that were fighting each other right next to you that could knock you down. You end up falling and everything. So that was, scary for maybe everybody, disconcerting, but not necessarily one of my deepest, darkest fears. And then the next one was a thing where you go into a bedroom, and essentially it's like a child's room at night, and you choose between three different storybooks. Although my coworker made me go through all three, I thought I was just going to get to choose the least scary one and be done. But I got to do all three simulations, and they were a clown. So he basically was kind of like a Jack in the Box type of clown that went around and got in my face and teased me. And, of course, it was a dark and stormy night, so you would have the windows, the flashlights outside, and you would just sit there and allow this to happen to you. There was a child creature thing, and it would kind of crawl along the ceiling and along the walls, and it had all these creepy, like, big old teeth, and of course it had the glowing
Wow.
eyes, and it would crawl up and get in your face. And it was really predictable. For anybody who's ever seen a single horror movie, it would be like, okay, I'm looking at this thing face to face. I know I'm safe. I know I'm sitting in a room, but this thing is going to jump in my face. And so my coworker was trying to record some audio both for our podcast and for use for work. And I apparently was not only cursing up a blue streak, but also I was goading these creatures because it was a way to make myself feel more in control and less scared. Because I was just like, "Come at me, you motherfucking clown. You're so ugly. Your mom probably is as ugly as you are. Get over here. I'm going to punch you in the face. I know you're going to jump out at me. You might as well do it now." Like, I was just shamelessly trash talking all of this stuff, because what was bothering me the most was not these things coming after us and whatever else. It was the fact that I wasn't allowed to react at all. I couldn't get up and run away, of course, and I couldn't punch any, like, some other VR stuff you can actually put your hands in and you can use your hands to shoot things or to punch things, but you were only allowed to sit there and basically sit there and be victimized and let these things happen to you. And that's why it was called Face Your Fears. Was literally stuff would come up right to the side of my face and I'd be like, "Nope, I'm just going to look away. I'm not going to look at you." And I would be told, "The simulation will not move on until you turn and look straight into this thing's eyes. And only then, letting it jump on you or whatever it's going to do, will this game move forward." So that was what scared me more than anything else, was, I guess, like the fear of fear, and the fear of the lack of control, and the fear of just sitting there and allowing this stuff to just do whatever it wanted without having any ability to react. So
Wow.
that
So
was
you
really
had to
interesting.
literally face your fears. Like,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was no action.
No, and that was not okay. I mean, I'm someone who, I'm watching the horror movies, and we all do this, but I mean, sitting there screaming like, "Why are you still just standing there?" Like,
Yeah.
I've been in emergency situations in real life. I don't freeze up. I react one way or the other, for better or worse. And to have to sit there in a chair and just let it all happen was not cool. Not cool at all.
That's awesome.
Yardley? You still with
One of
us?
the things that, yeah, I'm still here. One of the things that we were talking about as far as VR is concerned, is this something that you think is going to be something that's going to be applied regularly to help people with anxiety, on a more on a broader basis than being like a specialty niche, so to speak?
Well, that sure as shit didn't help me with my anxiety. But and what's weird about it is that I could see it being used for that purpose. However, at least the software that we have, you're not supposed to use it. It's recommended not to be used for over 15 to 20 minutes at a time. And I've heard that people can actually get pretty addicted to it because it is so cool and so realistic. And they also don't allow children under the age of 13 to use it. And that's actually because they haven't done long-term studies to see what it does to a developing brain. So I would be a little bit hesitant. While I could see it having some therapeutic uses, I can't see it being. I would be a little hesitant to take someone who already has an altered brain from PTSD and saying, here, let's go into a VR simulation and use it over time with the intention of having it help, when in reality, who knows what it could actually be doing to that person.
Interesting. All right.
I will actually, weird we're having this conversation is I watch House of Cards, and I'm still watching season 2. And a part of this season is one of the people running for president is a military person, and he is starting to experience PTSD. And one of the people in his combat group created something similar to what you're discussing, and he's struggling with it. Like, he's in the game and doing the virtual reality while trying to become president of the United States, and just showing how that pulls him back into what he dealt with instead of creating a safe space. It almost takes them back to what they dealt with in the beginning. So it would be an interesting situation. I mean, I can't speak for anybody that's been there. Maybe it's something that they can deal with, or maybe not, but I find that an interesting topic.
Definitely.
Well, I think we have reached our limit tonight, people.
Gotta
I'm
go
out
have
of
a
wine.
Friday night. Oh no.
Exactly. It's Friday. I'm out of wine. You guys are clearly out of topics. And what else can you do? We're going to have to end this bitch.
Go have a Friday, a long weekend ahead. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
And for everybody else who's hearing us, you're not going to hear us till Tuesday. But hey, we do things at the beginning, or, early, because we try to somewhat be responsible adults. So
that's right.
That's how it works.
So we'll say we hope you all enjoyed your long weekend that you've already had.
Yes.
We hope that
and
I'm not dead in a
still
ditch
spinning,
somewhere.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. World's still
that
spinning.
I'm not dead in a ditch from my family being gone. So the likelihood will go down once they get home. That'll be good.
I think the only ditch you're going to have is your ditch from all the hot dogs and cupcakes you've been eating. But hey,
girl,
that's just me, girl.
Not all
that's
I've been doing, but I don't want my husband to find out this way. So let's
Exactly. What happens alone stays alone. You just do you, honey.
Exactly.
Yardley,
so it's been real. Thanks, guys.
Exactly. It's always real. Yardley, I hope you had an amazing weekend because, past tense.
Yeah, you know what? But there's a lot of stuff going on here this weekend. Dragon Con and all of these festivals are going on this weekend. So it's going to kind of be a shit show by another name. But it's
Are you
always
going to Dragon Con?
I don't know. I mean, I might go by there. I don't know. It's too much of a headache for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. Like, if I go to like the Walker Stalker Con, I got press privileges for there, so I can do whatever I want. But kind of muddling through there and standing in lines, it's not really my stilo.
For anybody who doesn't know, Yardley is the shit. So he can walk into the Walking Dead walker stalkers and just, own that. Dragon Con is a bunch of it is, you're right, it's crazy. There's a bunch of crazy things and it's a little out of control. I used to work downtown and just, it's pretty nuts.
If they had Dragon Con in New Orleans, I would go.
Oh, but we did. Remember that time I ran after somebody and you actually captured me that was trying to fight somebody with a 2x4, and I was like, and then you saved me.
No, let's not do that.
Oh,
but it was fun. It was fun, but that was just, that was going to get out of control had you dove into that.
Well, of course, and I'm so glad you stopped me because, we had been drinking Fireball, and, Fireball is the nectar of the gods. Just saying. It makes you a superhero. So, with that, I would love to say, first of all, thank you to all our followers. Looking on Facebook, Twitter, everything. You guys are just awesome supporting us. Really appreciate it. We're newbies and really love the love y'all are giving us. So hope that it continues and enjoy us. And please reach out to us with any questions or stories of your own. We'd love to hear anything that you've experienced in your lives. And we want to start bringing some guests on to talk about it. So check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, websites, whatever you can find. And tell us your story. So with that, I bid a farewell to Moni and to Yardley.
Adios, everybody. Thanks again.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
See you on the flip side.
Skateboard kids are bumping city things like musical dancers with no fear t-shirts, bottle